Hi, welcome. Today I want to give you an end of the year review, my thoughts on some of this curriculum I'm about to show you, and how I did things a little bit differently for this 10th grader than I did for my others. Hi, welcome to my channel, Learning with Boys. If you're new here, my name is Rachel and I am a homeschool mom. I have 4 boys. I have graduated 2. This school year I have a 5th grader and a 10th grader, and my 10th grader is about done, like almost this close, like hair close done with his schoolwork. And I will mention one thing he's going to work on a little bit longer, but I want to give you just a review about some things that I haven't talked a whole lot about yet and show you what he's finished up. I do want to tell you that my last video I did an update for him and I gave more of an idea of what it looked like on a transcript, and that might be helpful to you, so I will post that below with some other high school videos if you are interested. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. And please link if you have any questions about a particular curriculum. I feel like I've done a review on some of them, but maybe not all of them. So let me know. All right, I am going to go ahead and start with his English, which would be English 1, and what we did this school year. We did for grammar, he did the Winston grammar. We were going to do, I think it's Winston words, but he just worked on this book, and really he has like a couple more lessons. And I said, if you just go through and do like every other one, we are going to do Fix It next year, the last book. I feel confident that he's ready for it. This is more just probably busy work at this point. So this has been good. Let me give an honest review. Every child is different, okay? So this worked really well for my oldest, and I thought it would be a great help for him in prepping for the ACT, and it just was not his favorite. It did not work as well as Fix It. He enjoyed Fix It last school year and probably should have just stayed with it. I know they changed from the time I used it to if I would have picked it, so maybe I was concerned about that. But for my first son, this worked great. Now this is the high school level. Winston Grammar has an elementary level, which we have used for all my boys, and it has been great. And I have mentioned that in past videos. So given an honest review there, just for him, I think Fix It works better. All right, for the writing, we did use IEW Structure and Style Year 1 Level C, and he finished up, I think it was halfway through, I want to say 9, but he is going to do sort of like one extra final paper for me, and that is what he's going to finish up in the next few weeks. So that is the only thing he has left, and I will talk about a few other things that he is working on also. But I wanted to share that he has done what I was hoping to get done with, because I'm going to let him finish the other half of it next school year, and I'm going to be fine with that. He will, Lord willing, do dual credit English his senior year. So we're just trying to prep him for that. Okay, for his literature, we pulled out some books from the guide that we're using for history, which is Heart of Dakota, U.S. History 1. This is a full boxed curriculum with the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and it has a Christian worldview. We really have enjoyed this. I'll get to this in a little bit, but I wanted to show you that is where we pulled the literature from, and they have a lot more than I'm about to show you, but we just picked a few, and actually a couple of them we ended up, and I will be honest, we just watched the movie. And the first one that was on there, mainly because I was a little familiar with the story, I knew he was not going to enjoy the book, but it was The Prince and the Pauper, and we found an old version and we just all watched it. I think my husband even watched it, I don't remember, but we just all watched it just to give us an idea of what that story was about. And then we have what they call the Trailblazers, and there was 3 of them that I pulled. I think they have some more. Like I said, this is not even probably half of the books they used for literature in that guide, which you could do their whole literature language arts if you wanted to, but we chose to do our own. And I'm going to show you those. The first one was from the autobiography from Benjamin Franklin, and this was really good. He read this, and they have notes in this book under a box for literature and what to read that day with questions and how to analyze it and all that. So it's very helpful. That's why I sort of picked what they had so he could go through it with the information they had in there. So this was good, and really we discussed this one a little bit. He went on to The Man Without a Country. We are a little bit familiar with this story, but he said this was really not his favorite at all. And I really thought it would be, because we know the story and we're familiar with it, but I guess maybe reading it, we have listened to like dramatized audio of the story, and that's why we are familiar with it. But he was not crazy about the read, but he did it, and just sharing that with you. The 1 million pound banknote. We actually ended up watching the movie. I don't think he read through it. I don't think he read through it. There's thunder. It's thundering. He is not my reader, so I just knew that this would not be something that interests him, but we did find an old movie that we watched. It was pretty funny, actually. So we enjoyed that together. All right, 2 of the other books that he read were actually the full books, which was Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. He followed along while we listened to this on Audible. I found this book on Audible. Of course, he would check every day, notes, questions, we would talk about it. And I have not read this book either. It's been on my shelf for a long time, and this book was actually given to us in suggestion to read it, and we have not. So I actually really enjoyed listening to it with him. He would do it at the kitchen table while I just sort of got some things done and could listen also. This was really good. Especially as we're entering this part of history, it was really good. And then Rifles for Wadey, another book that has been on my shelf for a long time. And I thought nobody read it, but one of my boys said, oh yeah, I read that book, and he told me a little bit about it. And I did not even realize he had read it. My 10th grader this school year is not my reader, so we found it on Audible again. He would just follow along, and I would listen. And actually, his younger brother listened to this too. And I would advise that this is definitely for a teenager, older teenager, adult, just because of some of the things that are in there. But I was listening to it with him so we could stop and discuss things. And it's just a little bit, as a parent, I'm just telling you with discernment that I was there. So I felt comfortable about it, and we talked about it, and he reads a lot of things about war and stuff, but I just wanted to share that thought with you. But other than that, this book was amazing. I really think my 10th grader really enjoyed it too. This was probably his favorite one. So that is all that we did for literature this school year, but like I said, he followed along with the notes in the guide for Heart of Dakota. Okay, I am going to go ahead and talk about foreign language. Foreign language, he did French this school year, and he was excited. That's what he wanted to do. I tried to persuade him possibly just to do Latin. And I will tell you up front, I almost wish that I would have pushed that, but he was determined that French was it. So we started with, I cannot remember what it was. We tried something that was online. It was like a 15-day trial. Look at me, I can't even remember. And I know it's in one of my videos at the beginning, but I'll link it right here. It just jumped right into it. It was too much at the beginning for him. We picked up this book, First Start French, and he has slowly been working through this. And either that or he's been doing Duolingo. And I know for Duolingo, and I didn't realize this, but I did hear that you don't want to go too far with French, because then it just starts getting into language you don't really want your teens to be looking at. So we did talk about that, and I just told him to review. But when he was doing this, he just felt like he couldn't move forward until he reviewed, and knew it. So it's just a harder language for him, and maybe just language in general. He did do Latin when he was younger, and I did it with him, and we both did okay with it. So I just thought he would catch on. And I think it's just one of those languages you really need someone to be able to communicate and practice with. So curriculum itself is fine. It's very similar to the one we used for Latin. So it's not the curriculum. I think it was just probably needed more instruction from someone that knew the language. Okay, Okay, for science, he did biology this school year, and we used the Biology 101 DVDs. I have a whole video on this, so I'm going to link that below. It'll give a lot more detail if you are interested in this. Of course, you print off a notebook, quizzes, guidebook, and then you have the videos. Also, there's a list of things to do. They encourage you to get extra books, extra videos. They have some lab, and I mentioned that in my video. We used more online labs for that. I actually had him read 2 different books. The first semester he read The World of Biology by John Hudson Tenner, and this was really good, and he enjoyed this. Now, I had him read this book, and we read some of it together, What's with the Mutant in the Microscope. And it's really interesting talking about your faith in creation and comparing that and giving you answers, which is what you want answers. But I will tell you, for him, math is not his subject. Science, he doesn't mind it to a point. We actually watched the debate between Ken Ham and Ben Nye, and it's like 2 hours long, and he actually really enjoyed that. Just the discussion, and we both learned a lot. We did that over a couple days. We didn't sit there the whole time. We didn't sit there for 2 hours and watch it at one time, but I had not seen it. So just things like that we did, that he enjoys the truth. So, and being able to comprehend it and understand it, but I don't think he wants to dive into the experimental part of it. So, which is important. So we are thankful. All right, so that was biology. All right, since I mentioned math, he did do Algebra 2 Matthew C this school year, and this went really well. A lot better than last year. He's been a Matthew C guy most of the time. He's done Saxon, I think, one other time, and then in his 9th grade year, he did it. And it really was a struggle. It was just a lot of work for someone that math is not his goal. So I decided to go back to Matthew C. I was a little concerned about switching back to it, but he jumped into it really well. And the only thing that I would have to say about this is that it's usually Algebra 1, Geometry, and then Algebra 2. But I called them, and I mentioned this in my last video, I called them, and they said that will be fine. There may be some review of geometry in there. Well, towards the end, there's several lessons of review, and he had not done that yet. So we sort of had to skip those lessons, do some review pages from the past. But that is where we are. He is done with it this school year, so he will be doing geometry next. But he did well with it, and I'm so thankful. Okay, let me talk about health. We used Total Health this school year, and there is another book. It's Spiral. It has the quizzes and tests plus the answers in there. So you will need that if that is what you want to do. I don't even think the questions for the quizzes are, well, I say that. Okay, at the end of each chapter, there are discussions, chapter reviews, like all the terms, explain. So there are actually questions, but there's also quizzes in the other book, which is the teacher's guide, which would also have the answers. So there's discussion questions, and there's also suggested activities. He pretty much did the reading, and I let him do the quizzes open book. A lot of this, we read some of it. Quite often, we would read things together, take turns, discuss, talk about, which I'm glad I did, because I don't know, there was just some things that every family is different with how they take care or discuss their health, what is important to them. Some things are more important to other people than some things might not be as important to them. So we were able to just take our time and discuss some of those things when we read it together, and there were days where he would just read through, I would sort of just breeze through what he was going to read, and I just said, yeah, just go ahead and read that yourself. So that is just how it worked for us. I think that's how it's going to be with any health curriculum. One above him read through all this pretty much himself. There are a couple chapters back here that I do have them skip, because I just feel like that is discussions for his parents with him. And I mean, we could read through it ourselves and then discuss it with our boys, but but they're just things that we talk about as a family, and I felt like that's how we would prefer to do it, and not through the health book. So I do want to share my thoughts there. Everybody's different on how they want to do that. That's just our preference. Okay, before I get into the history and the government, let me mention also that he has had a busy year. The first half of the year, he was getting his hours for his driving license, and he was able to get his license this school year. He actually just got a job, and we're very thankful, been praying about that. So just a lot of things are picking up. He is continuing on with the piano. He will actually take a break this summer from the piano, but that is going really well. I just really feel like he has had an amazing improvement this school year. His desire is just to use it in ministry, so he is really working on hymns, and he's done an offertory or 2, I think. Did he do 2 this year at church? He just has a desire to do that. Want him to be able to play for people that would like to sing. It's just been a huge improvement, and I pray that the Lord will continue to use that and give him that desire. Okay, this school year, for government and history, he used the U.S. history from Heart of Dakota, and this is year 1. Now, this is something a little bit different than I did with my older 2. This is the first time we have used this. We have been using just a 1-year history curriculum, and then the next year we would take a semester for government, and the next semester they would do economics. So this is really new to us, and I know there's a couple curriculums that do that will intertwine the government or the economics with the U.S. history, and I really like to say that I really like it. I think it really brought everything together for him a little bit better in understanding about each of these subjects and in our nation and the government. It went really well, and if you have the opportunity, I really suggest doing it that way. I just really think it was helpful, and like I said, this isn't the only curriculum that does it that way, but I really thought the books were great. I think he has enjoyed them all. There was a couple that weren't his favorite to read, but sometimes I would read them with him, and sometimes he would read them, but it was like a couple pages. I don't know, but I actually enjoyed that because that gave me the opportunity to see what he was reading about, what he was studying, and then we could discuss more, not just what we read that day together, but I would see where he was at. Have you talked about this person? Talked about that, and that was really enjoyable. So, all right, for government, under what Heart of Dakota uses for government is a noble experiment. Now, there is a printable teacher's guide that comes with this is the teacher resource CD, so that would be on there. And then there's also other things because he had to do some quizzes, and I think all the answers are on here. And actually, I think the quizzes were on here. I could be wrong, but everything is in there. If it's not in the book, it's probably on the teacher CD. And then he also had DVDs that he listened to, and he would also take some notes with that. So we pretty much did it all open book. Now, another book that I know he really enjoyed was the Uncle Eric book, Whatever Happened to Justice, and he actually just finished that. He actually brought it to me, and we read the last chapter together. We really talked about that. I asked him lots of questions because it was sort of a review chapter, so that was sort of helpful, and I enjoyed hearing him answer and talk about the subject. So wanted to talk about that with government. Now with history, there is quite a few books. They use spines. They also have a huge selection of living books that you could use with it, but we decided not to do that. He is not my extended reader, so there is a lot in the spine selection and a lot of good books too. This is one of the early ones. He actually finished this early on, The Founding of a Nation, the story of the 13 colonies. So he did finish that early on. One of his main spines, I think he usually reads out once a week and has to do some writing from it. I could be wrong. I know he'd had to do writing once or twice a week from different books, but it's America, The Last Best Hope. We actually got this on audio, so he was able to stick it in, follow along, listen, underline, take notes as he listened. So that is just what is working for him. Every kid is different. The other books were American History, Great Letters in American History. And these were from different people in different times of history. And it was really interesting because you get to know them a little bit better, more personable when you read a letter that was written to someone else from them. And Book of Heroes, Great Men and Women in American History. Scenes from American Church History, Faith of Our Fathers. And Great Documents in History. He'll be using the second book for this next school year. I do have my 11th grade video posted, and I'll link that below too if you're interested. Never Before in History, America's Inspired Birth. So I think he finished this early on because I haven't seen him reading this. So I think this was done early on. I feel like I'm missing a couple, and I really truly feel like I could be. So there are student pages in this, and this is where you do a lot of the writing. There are documents in here. There's maps. Like these notes I think he typed out or printed out. So, and there's like note cards he does for one of the books every week. Now he did not 100% fill all this out. I mainly wanted those the note cards, and then the main writing. I said that's my main thing I want done. There's lots of maps for different things. So that is what he used that for, is to keep all those things that he wrote up and took notes on. So this is the guide pretty much, and pretty much just followed this side, which is all about the history. There's also a history activity, which would be your map work. So these two books, and this was just filling in maps. There's lots of questions, but I mainly told him I wanted him to fill in the maps, and I think he'll use this next school year because it looks like it goes into the next school year. So he just filled in the maps. I do have a couple other things in this guide, like constitutional literacy, Bible. He just does his own Bible. He is reading through the Bible and doing his own studies for different things. Sometimes he has opportunity to do like a lesson in one of the children's ministries or in a nursing home ministry. He does his Bible on his own. He will be doing a dual credit Bible next school year, I think Old Testament and New Testament. And they do have their own foreign language, which they use Spanish. But we just used it for the history and the government, and we really enjoyed it. We're actually going to use 2 next year for history and economics. So if you'd like to see more on that, you can check out the video of what we're using next school year. All right, I think that was everything. Oh, let me show you the CDs. I did forget to mention that they do have DVDs along with this history, and I feel like that is a big part of it. You can almost use these DVDs on their own if you did need a 1-year U.S. history, and it's the American Testimony DVDs, and these are by historytoyou.com, and I'll try to remember to link that below. Next year he'll be doing 1877 to 2006 is what is on these. So I wanted to share that with you just in case you were looking for something that you could maybe just do on your own and add some living books with. This would be great. So, all right. I really do feel like this year went pretty smooth, and I'm very grateful for that. And I know things are going to pick up. They do. They pick up in high school. Things start moving really fast. You know, each grade goes by a little bit faster, a little bit faster, and a little bit faster. So I'm very grateful that it went smoothly this school year. The Lord has worked in so many different ways, answered prayers, just grateful and excited about next school year, which will be a little bit different. He'll be doing dual credits, and more than likely he'll continue working. So that is what happens in high school. Just as a word of advice, when you're trying to plan too far ahead, you just don't know what the Lord has in plan for your child and opportunities that will arise. So we'll see how it goes. I have everything picked out prayerfully. He's got to do the requirements. He has some dual credit classes. But we are excited, and I am definitely excited about my younger son. If you are interested, I have videos on my 5th grader and what we've picked out for his 6th grade school year. And I do have videos from 4th and 9th grade. That's sort of when I started all this, going into middle school and working through our way through high school. And like I said, I have graduated too, and I do have some videos that I talk about some past things. So I'll link my How to Homeschool High School playlist below, and maybe if you're interested in checking some of that out, talking about electives and some things you should think about even before you enter those high school years, and the planning that is involved. It is a very exciting time, and I will tell you there is a tremendous growth from coming into 9th grade and coming out of 10th grade. It's just been, I think that's, once you get through 9th grade, it starts smoothing out a little bit. So I hope that is encouraging. So, all right, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.